Let's go to Robert now, listening in Fort Lauderdale. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Patrick. What I'm calling about, I am African American.
Hmm.
Um, I don't agree with any of the looting or burning that may be going on, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna tell you right now, is people are tired, and I did not, and I'm not. By the way, I'm not Catholic. I
Hmm.
found your radio station probably 4 months ago, and I kind of been listening to it because I enjoy
Great.
it.
Thank you.
Um, I will
I
say
hope
this:
you'll keep
that
listening. I really do.
I will. I really because I want to hear another perspective, and
Right.
that's what the black community feels like. We've been listening to other perspectives, but nobody's been listening to us.
I'm all ears.
Okay,
Believe me, I'm all
okay,
ears, Robert.
right, and it gets to the point, and with this, and you see, I've heard saying, hey, I don't want to call anybody out because you have great callers, and I'm not going to do that. But I've
Hmm.
heard that we've my family immigrated here from another country, and
Hmm.
we worked hard. We were treated badly. Well, you know what, Robert? I don't know any race of people that's worked harder in this country than African Americans.
Hmm.
Okay, and once emancipation came about, there was still certain amounts of us still did not were not free until 2 years later. That's why we celebrate Juneteenth
Right.
because they still was held slaves. Then after that, then it was Jim Crow. Then after that, it was something after another thing. And I understand. No, do I believe America itself is a racist country? Of course not. Of
Hmm.
course not. But the problem arises, and this is the frustration with the police officers. And I have members of my family from U.S. Marshals all the way down to jailers that work
Hmm.
in the law enforcement. And I hear from them also. The problem is when you see a wrong and hear wrong and you do nothing about it.
Hmm.
Evil is allowed to take place when it is not called out. It's the same way to me is going to a church faithfully and you're still committing the same sins that you were from the day that you first entered there, and even though you've been there for 20 years now.
Yeah.
It has to be called out, and that's all they're asking for. When God forbid, and I got to tell you, I've never been in trouble with the law.
Hmm.
Never been in trouble with the law at all, and thank God for that. But I
Yes.
have two young, beautiful black men, sons, that I worry about because you know why? I
Why?
have family members that are law enforcement, and we get together and we have to have a special talk with them, even though they have family members that's in law enforcement. And
Hmm.
it should not be that way. It
You're right.
has to be called out. Yes, and that's the problem. And it's like, well, yes, nobody's saying, oh, America is when you seem to turn a blind eye. And I appreciate the gentleman when he said, I've never given birth because I can't,
Hmm.
because I'm a man. So I really can't feel, but I can't have empathy for it. I was in,
Right.
when me and my wife were told we could not have children, thank God I listened to the report that God gave. And when
Yeah.
that baby was coming along, and I sat in that room with her that night, and the pains that she was having, physically, I could not, but emotionally, I prayed all night, Lord, help her.
Hmm.
Because I was feeling that pain. Even though I couldn't feel it physically, I don't know exactly what she was going through. I felt her because she was in tremendous pain. She was,
Yes.
and that's what we're asking for. So when it's called out, when a person is screaming on the streets, and you hear it saying, "I can't breathe," and this is not the first time that we've dealt with this. This has
Right.
been on and on for generations, and that's what we feel. That's what we're feeling. We're feeling. When does it stop? Yes, white European Americans. Yes, they've had some that's been killed by police officers. Of course, we're not saying everybody's a racist, but
Right.
it seems to happen
Some
on a
people
large
are, though.
scale.
Sadly, some people
Right,
are. Yeah.
right. Some people are, and I do appreciate your radio show, and I've learned a lot about the Catholic faith because I wanted to go to the sources why I started listening, and
Right.
I enjoyed it. But at the same time, it's like, does anybody hear us? Does anybody see what we're seeing? Not just okay, this gentleman he was breaking the law. Does that deserve him to be killed on the streets?
No, of course not.
And this is not the first time. No, and we just need and at that time, you know what? People and the rioting and the looting did not even start until the first prosecutors that was in that case came back and said, oh, we don't think we have a case. And that's when everything just went wild.
You're talking about
That's
the George
when
Floyd
everything-
killing?
Yes.
Okay.
When the first group came back and said, we may not have a case at all, and those people, you know, they were emotional, they lost it. They first thing they yelled is, here we go again. He can't breathe, I can't breathe either. And no, I totally, you know what, my kids are not in my house and my family, we're not taught to hate. Even though my grandmother was 11 years after slavery, I mean, I had her viewpoints, but because I went out and I learned people, and I learned that we're all the same, that we must, you know, we have the same objectives in life. It's to live freely, to
We
live
want to
well,
be happy. We
to
want to
raise
be
a
left
beautiful
alone.
family. We want to be happy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we're not feeling. We're not feeling that we're left alone.
So let
And
me
when
ask you, Robert.
happened,
I want
Sure.
you to help
Sure.
me understand, because I'm like the guy who, you know, I saw my wife give birth to babies, but I never had to go through it. Can you give me some specifics that are practical things that people can do to help with this problem? Because I'm all ears. I want to hear from you. What are some practical things we can do?
Here it is. My wife always says she's in a house full of testosterone. Okay?
She lives in a testosterone home.
Right. She the whole house. I mean, even down to our small dog is a male dog. And so, but she checks the boys all the time. And our sister, when I hear it, if they say something like, oh, well, girls can't do that. They're girls. Boom, she jumps right on it. She checks them. And so do I. We have to start at home. And even though, like I said, my kids, the only thing my kids grew up hating when they were really small were baths. That was the only thing. They hated. And you know what? Because we have a multitude of people that come to our house. Race is never brought up.
Yeah.
Colors are never brought up. They see these guys and they say it. Oh, that's my Uncle Jeff. Oh, that's my Uncle Mark. You understand? Because we live in a loving household, and I truly believe that's what we all have to do. But we have to call it out. We have to, when somebody's making those jokes, we have to say, "Hey,
Right.
that's not proper."
I agree.
And I
with
do
you.
it myself within my own within the black community. I have to say, because things are being said about maybe women, and which I will not tolerate, especially in my house. Certain music, I can come around the corner because now they're teenagers and they're playing something, and I said, "Hey, wait a minute, what is that you're playing? And where did you get it from? And why would you play something like that? And you think that we would approve of it?" Is that?
That's a good point. I want to jump in right there. The N-word. Obviously, if a white person uses the word, and it's reprehensible to be used, I believe. That's how I was raised. But why is it that African Americans can call each other that, and Chris Rock and Chappelle and big people in comedy and things like that can use it in humor, and it's okay? I don't think it should be okay for anybody under any circumstances. Do you have any thought on that? Because I think there's another example of where there's an imbalance here.
Right, and I totally agree. And the reason for that, and it's sad, but it was such a negative term that was used towards minorities in such a way, and such a nasty term that was using.
Yeah,
they started using it in more of a family way to take the power, to take the sting away. Dave Chappelle and those guys, they're around my age. Okay, so that was a way to counteract. I mean, and honestly, God knows, when I first heard that word, when I first heard it, and it affected me so much. My mother, we went to a pizzeria. She ordered a pizza, and I was sitting in the car waiting for her to come back, and two gentlemen from another race got in the car, and I heard them use that towards my mother, and I didn't know what they were saying. Okay, and it was funny to them, and they looked at me and they called me the little one.
Oh,
and I had no idea. So when my mom got back in the car, I said, "Mom, do you know those guys that was just in there?" And she goes, "No, well, why? What happened?" And I told her what happened. And my mom sat there with tears in her eyes. She sat there with tears in it because it's so ugly. But at the same time, people started taking it and saying, "You know what? If they're going to use it towards us negatively and they're not going to get away from it, we'll use it, but we're going to make it so it takes the sting out of it. It takes the sting out of it." We used to see the television shows, and it was funny with Flip Wilson, and he would say Negro instead of the word, Negro, please. You understand? That was to take the sting out of it. It was to take the sting and the bite. And
I
trust me,
see.
there is a big movement in the black community to remove the word. But it's like any other cancer, and I'm using racism is a cancer. It's a
Hmm.
cancer. We all have prejudice, but racism, whether you're white, black, Asian, whatever you may be, racism is a cancer because, first of all, what you do is you demoralize a person. You use such a nasty term towards them. And once you can take the human away from that individual, they mean nothing at all to you.
Yeah.
So one way that helps is we speak out. And you don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be saying, hey, we don't use that words towards women around this house. And I never want to see you guys hang with people. And I tell my kids all the time, if you're around a group of guys and they're disrespecting young women, you walk away. First you tell them that's not appropriate, and then you walk away. I never want to see you in that crowd. I want you guys to come up and see how your dad treated your mom. I love her. She's my rib. She's my everything. And I love you guys the same way. And I want you guys to be just as well with your wives, to respect and honor them. So we have to just speak out. And it doesn't have to be these big commercials. I've heard the statement saying, "Oh, America's racist." Okay, if the system is racist, we know what we need to do to change that. We just have to work. But at the same time, the jokes, the looking across the room, oh, there those people are again. And trust me, just like you said, there's black people that have that issue. And they say, well, mine is a reaction. Well, you know what? It's still negative. And you won't change a person's heart. Oh, truly, we can't. But at the same time, if you make it unacceptable, when those jokes come your way, say, hey, did you hear? No, I don't do that.
Right.
I don't participate in that. And that's all they're asking for. And for somebody to say, hey, we hear you. We hear you, and not just said, well, he was a bad guy. He was a bad guy. He was trying to write a $20 bad check or a counterfeit check or whatever it was. And
Did not deserve what happened to him.
Don't need to hear that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to call it out. It was wrong. Even though it was policeman, it was wrong.
I have a question for you, Robert,
Thank you
before
for
we
your
go.
time. Sure.
No,
Sure.
don't leave yet. Don't leave. First of all, thank you. You I'm really glad you called. I really am. You heard a good portion of the program today. And maybe
Yeah.
you heard it from the beginning where I played the audio, from
I
Paul
missed it.
Albert. Okay. In your personal opinion, as a black man, do you feel as though something good was accomplished on the program today with regard to what you're asking about? That people will hear you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I really do. I like I said, I'm not Catholic, but I pray for Patrick Madrid and his show.
Thank you.
And I do. I really do. I do. And because you have a calming voice, and it's the Spirit of God, and I appreciate it. I mean, I had a lot of, let me say, we talked about racism and prejudice. Okay, I had prejudice because, Catholics? Oh, Catholics? No, they just believe Mother Mary's God. So who can believe it? No, I learned once I got educated, and that's what people are not doing. They're not opening their ears. They're not taking the time to listen and learn. I've learned now, no, that's not what they're doing. And I've actually taken that back. And then people look and say, oh, really? I didn't know that. I've always heard this. Well, we can hear a lot of things. I could hear terrible things about my neighbor until I go over and shake my neighbor's hand and introduce myself to my neighbor. We're not neighbors. Jesus speaks about your neighbor. He speaks about your brothers. We're not reaching out to each other. We're not. We say we do because President Barack Obama won twice. That's over. What the black community saw was when President Barack Obama won, racism kicked up because you know why? We heard the membership in the KKK in the country went up.
Yeah, it's
So
sick.
we have a sensitivity to things like that. We do. We have a sensitivity to things like
Understandable.
that.
It's understandable.
Right. And it's like, are they not listening? Are they not hearing? Did I agree with everything they did? No. But it cut to the soul when we hear, the Klan membership is rising because the man, come on, from a country that had slaves to have the first black president, it's amazing. And then we have to hear years of, yeah, it is. And then we have to hear years of, well, he's not really American.
Robert, first of all, thank you. This has been a great conversation. You have a standing invitation to call anytime. I'd love to talk to you again. And if ever I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I'm going to look you up because I want to have a purpose-driven taco and a cup of coffee or whatever else you want to have. I want to have that with you. Thank you. Wow. We will be back at it again tomorrow. Please pray for me, and I'll pray for you. God bless you.
For more of The Patrick Madrid Show, visit relevantradio.com/Patrick.